Hi, I'm Lori, and I am so excited to talk to you today about Caste, The Origins of Our Discontent by Isabel Wilkerson. This book, published this year in 2020, argues that the United States operates under a caste system based on race. Wilkerson compares our caste system to that of India and Nazi Germany, highlighting the similarities and differences between each nation. For me, thinking of the US as operating with the same system as Nazi Germany made me cringe. Yet I think that's the point. We Americans have to start facing the truth about hierarchy in our country, in ourselves, and then perhaps we can do something about it. I will say this book has so much great content. This summary isn't going to cover all of it. But what I hope it does is give you some of the core ideas that she writes about, and also perhaps inspire you to pick up a copy for yourself and read the whole thing. In this summary, I try to use the words of the author as much as possible to preserve the depth and detail. You'll see some quotation marks and some quotes, but know that much of what I share with you comes directly from the text itself. So, what's a caste? According to Wilkerson, caste is the granting or withholding of respect, status, honor, attention, privileges, resources, and human kindness to someone on the basis of their perceived rank or standing within the hierarchy. The author uses the metaphor of an old house to describe America, saying, quote, "The owner of an old house knows that whatever you're ignoring will never go away. Whatever is lurking will fester, whether you choose to look or not. Ignorance is not protection from the consequences of inaction." Mold in the walls, cracks in the foundation, water damage from a flood, all these issues in old houses face the current homeowner, even if that homeowner had nothing to do with how it all started. And we may not have been directly involved in the sins of our own past, yet we're now the heirs to whatever is right or wrong with it. Any further deterioration of our current home, that is in fact on our hands. The problem is that we learn to live with it, like in an old home. Wilkerson describes we put buckets to catch a leak. We step over the crack in the cement. We avoid the creaky, unstable staircases. These awkward damages become acceptable, and the unacceptable becomes merely inconvenient. And long enough, even the unthinkable becomes normal. Over generations, we learn to believe that the incomprehensible is just the way of life, the way it's supposed to be. So what will it take to gather the courage to face what we would rather not see? That's the big question. America has an unseen skeleton, a caste system, and that's as central to our operation as the studs and joists that we cannot see in the physical buildings that we call home. That system is the architecture of human hierarchy, the subconscious code for instructions, maintaining our social order. This embedded ranking of human value sets presumed supremacy of one group against the presumed inferiority of other groups based on traits that would otherwise be neutral, like skin color. Each version of the caste system, from India's millennia-long caste to the former caste system of Nazi Germany, and now the current unspoken race-based pyramid of the United States. Each version stigmatizes those deemed inferior to justify the dehumanization necessary to keep the lowest ranked people at the bottom and then rationalize the protocols of enforcement. This system is about power, who has it and who does not, and resources, who are worthy of them and who are not, who gets to acquire and control resources, and who does not. In America, race does the heavy lifting for a caste system that demands a means of human division. Your race, determined by the color of your skin, determines how you're treated, whether you belong in a certain section of town or get a seat in the boardroom. The thing about race is that it's a made-up system, categorizing people as black, white, when they're actually neither, rather just gradations of brown, beige, and ivory. Imagine if another human characteristic was the determining factor for your place in society, say being tall or being short. Wilkerson offers a story about a tribe of short people who journeyed to a new land and found people who towered over them. They didn't know what to think of these folks, as they considered themselves and their shorter stature the measure of human existence. These tribes faced off against each other, one tribe with the shortest humans, the other with the tallest. The shorts joined with other shorts around the world, and they found better weaponry, and they captured and enslaved the talls. The shorts told themselves these tall people were backward and inferior. They had not made use of their strengths, and so therefore they should serve the shorts. The shorts made rules to uphold the social hierarchy. Shorts could not marry talls, and shorts were seen as natural-born leaders based on their intellect and cultural superiority. I think you see where this is going. If this seems preposterous to you, it should. As preposterous and absurd as deciding that skin pigment is an appropriate measure of distinction between superior and inferior. And like height, there's tremendous variation. The boundaries are not exact. So what of the in-between? Race is a recent phenomenon, a human invention. Slavery, an invention. Africans aren't black. One Nigerian-born playwright who visited the author shared with her, it's not until they come to America that they even recognize themselves as black. Even the Europeans weren't white until they came to America. They were Czech or Polish. Their light white skin only became a thing when it was set against something not white. Wilkerson explains how caste is insidious and therefore powerful because it's not hatred. It's not necessarily even personal, just unthinking patterns of a social order. Caste is any structure that seeks to limit, hold back, or put someone in a denigrated category. People adhere to their caste to preserve their own advantage and privilege, even if they're not conscious of doing so. Racism, on the other hand, is attaching inferiority on the basis of race specifically. So in the US, racism and casteism frequently occur at the same time. This is why good, kind people don't consider themselves racist, because deep down they don't believe that there is an inferior or superior race. However, it is likely that they're casteist, meaning they maintain the hierarchy with which they live. They're content to do nothing to change it. In the book, Wilkerson describes the 8 pillars of a caste, the ancient principles that are common across the 3 major castes of India, Nazi Germany, and America. The first is divine will and the laws of nature. And this means that there's a godly order and that social stratification is considered something beyond human control, divinely ordained, or part of natural law. Hindu cosmology holds the caste system as an aspect of the birth of Brahma, the supreme god. The Judeo-Christian tradition has a contrasting story about the creation of the world's different races. The next pillar is heritability, how one's bloodline determines one's ranking. This predetermined, inherited aspect of who you are puts you in your social place. Endogamy and the control of marriage is the third pillar. So caste system separates and manages bloodlines in a way that will preserve the impenetrability of that dominant gene. So they want to eliminate any subordinate caste DNA. To achieve this, laws are passed that restrict marriage and reproduction along caste lines. This is something Hitler actually admired about the American model, which made it illegal for whites and blacks to get married. It's social engineering. It's promoting selective breeding. The fourth pillar is purity versus pollution. This is the idea that the dominant caste is more pure, to the extreme of remaining physically distant to not get polluted by the lower caste. This should sound recognizably familiar to us in America, thinking about the practices of keeping whites and blacks separate. Occupational hierarchy is the next pillar, where the best jobs go to the members of the top caste. For example, in America, after the Civil War, black people could only perform domestic or farm work, setting their place in the caste. This maintains the caste because then the people on the low end of the divide aren't in the roles where they can make laws, change policy, access resources. It preserves and maintains the divide. Dehumanization and stigma, this might be the worst pillar to me in the way it allows us to treat others as objects, as things, even worse than things. The notion that dehumanization, making someone else not human, and it doesn't happen by accident, that it's purposeful and it takes energy, and we do this, it's hard to imagine. It's hard to dehumanize a single person. So instead, those who seek power attach a stigma to an entire group. In doing this, you take away their names, their faces, and their emotions. This then allows the group in power to enact terrible things on the others: murder, enslavement, torture, concentration camps, slave auctions, labor camps, starvation, punishment for doing nothing. It's the many ways those in power keep their power, and it's disgusting. Terror as enforcement is the next pillar, using cruelty as a means of control. So in order to keep the caste in place, the dominant caste instills terror and uses cruelty to keep the lower caste under control. Think lynchings, public murders, and punishments. These are things that are intended to remind people of their place and let them know the consequence of defiance. Inherent superiority versus inherent inferiority is the final pillar. And this is that core belief that one group is superior. This is white supremacy, that white is the supreme and superior group. In the next part of the book, Wilkerson gives examples to bring these ideas to life. She talks about the alpha and our misconception that alphas are dominant and aggressive, when in the animal world, actually, it shows us that this is the farthest from the truth. True alphas have a quiet confidence. And for us humans, she claims, it's too bad we've had to watch so many organizations flounder under ill-suited alphas, deprived from the natural alphas who never get the chance to lead with compassion and courage because the caste system prevents them from doing so. She continues, talking into the present time, reminding us that the election of Barack Obama was more of the fantasy of a turning point than an actual turning point itself. The book has real life stories. They make you uncomfortable. They make you angry. They make you sad. Yet it ends with an invitation, an opportunity. We all pay a high price for a caste system. America is facing an identity crisis unlike any before. So what are we to do about it? What are you willing to do about it? Einstein stood up against the system. She talks about that story in the book. He joined the NAACP, became an explicit ally, and we have the option to do something similar. And in doing that, we can look to empathy. She talks about putting ourselves in someone else's shoes, connecting with the humanity of every person in front of us, recognizing that the price of privilege is the moral duty to act when one sees another person treated unfairly. We can reach across the caste and make a connection every time, breaking off a piece of that caste that's bad for all of us, changing the way we hire, the way we vote, working to change our thoughts. The book actually opened with this old photograph showing hundreds of German workers obediently saluting their leader, Adolf Hitler. You can see this one lone person who's not saluting, standing with his arms crossed, having come to despise the Nazis for their anti-Semitic policies, which affected the Jewish woman that he loved. His moral courage allowed him to stand separate from the masses. Might he be an example to us? I ask myself if I can summon a similar kind of defiant integrity and stand up against the discriminating and hate-mongering majority. And so I ask, can you? There's a lot to learn in this book, and it is so rich and so deep. I really hope you pick up a copy and read it in its entirety. You will not regret it. It is time to continue reading and learning and listening and having the conversations that will help us learn how to become the change and be part of shifting this system that we know is no good for any of us, and it's no good for our country. Thank you so much for joining me to discuss this book. I do hope you pick it up. If you like this content and want to learn more about the leadership content that we put out, please like and subscribe to this video. And until next time, let's do our best to be better.